Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to Kendo Rant. Let's get into these questions. Right, number one. This one actually comes from somebody I know that I used to practice with back in the day when I used to live in London. Basically, it says, "Hey Andy, long time no see. Hope you're well. I was drawn to this video by the how to grade against Jodan title because I just freshly came off my Jodan Shinsa against one and I failed." So this is obviously a comment on the previous video, the previous Kendo Rant, where I talked about how to grade against Jodan. I've got a lot of advice on it since, but I'd love to hear your thoughts anyway, expanding on your rant video. First of all, I was very taken aback as I was not expecting him to go into the Kamae, so Jodan, and I couldn't land a single good ippon on my grading partner, so it was deserved. My main problem was I was so worried about my own form. I tend to block a lot playing against Jodan in normal circumstances. Then I would normally try some debana or hikiwaza. I'm told that going into a Jodan exam to stick to the men and do and avoid Kote and don't do hikiwaza. Of course, playing Jodan, Kote would be your main target, so that should be okay. But what about hikiwaza? How about blocking? Does a missed tsuki or gyakudo have any negative impact on your grading, since so much is emphasized on eliminating unnecessary hits and to really show proper semi for Jodan? Thank you. Okay. It's best not, I'll say it right now, it's best not to block too much, alright? To be honest with you, if you're doing your Jodan, whether your partner is doing Shodan or Jodan, the concept is exactly the same. No, I would never say for any level that you shouldn't hit Kote. You should always hit whatever techniques you're able to create the opportunities for, especially at higher levels. If you want to strike Kote, that's fine. But you have to make the right opportunity to strike Kote. So against Jodan, it's exactly the same, to be honest, as you would do, as I said, for Shodan. You have to focus on applying semi, applying pressure, and trying to take the initiative so you can make the first strike. So they're reacting to you and not you reacting to them. And that's what everybody falls into when they go against Jodan. They go, oh, he's doing Jodan. Your hands start coming up, and every time they move, you kind of get so scared you're going to get hit on the men, which doesn't matter in the grade. And you have to go, not be scared you're going to be hit, but instead put pressure and say, no, I'm going to hit. Semi, Kote. You can attack men as well. Men, lots of Jodan players will try to do Debanawaza, but if you've taken the initiative, you will still win the Debanawaza. So you have to approach it in the same way as you would against Shodan. Don't get kind of flustered by the fact that they're holding the hands over the head, right? And as far as whether missed strikes would go against you, it depends when you do them. It really doesn't come down to that. It comes down to whether you're throwing out attacks randomly, or you're doing tsuki, for example. You're doing kata tsuki. If you're just throwing one out there to see if it'll land or not, then that doesn't look good in any sort of grading. Yeah, but if you're putting pressure on them and they're not kind of responding to you, or there's a good chance for you to make the kata tsuki, then that's a great time to do it. And if you're not perfectly accurate, it's not a massive problem if it's done at the correct opportunity. All right. And finally, as far as hikiwaza goes, to be honest, you don't see much hikiwaza in gradings because the idea is both of you are supposed to try and make complete attacks. Right. And that doesn't mean hit each other and go past and turn around. You don't want to do that. All right. That's not what you're supposed to do in a grading, and I don't know where that misconception comes from. But both of you, if you were doing Shodan, perhaps you would both maybe do men, and you turn around to face each other, and you both come back and finish at Shodan. Even if one of you is hit and one of you doesn't manage to make a hit, or if both of you doesn't hit, you would complete the waza still. So there isn't much time spent into the zeriai. All right, it's better to make successful strikes in your grading. It's better to make the successful strikes, but that isn't the goal of the grading. All right, it's not. It's a bit of a paradox because it's not. There's nowhere in the grade really that it says, oh, you have to make a successful strike, but you really should make the successful strike if you are of the level that you're trying to pass the test for against somebody who's supposed to be one of your peers. So it is a bit of a paradox that I do grant that, to be honest. But if you get over focused on just trying to make a successful strike, that's when you're going to start blocking, trying to do things that you're not really supposed to do, and I think that's where you'll trip up. So, right, next one. Is there a right way to receive tsuki? So few people are willing to try and go for tsuki that it's hard to know how to handle being on the receiving end. So tsuki is probably the most under-practiced waza of all the waza in Kendo. There's a kind of like a really... Everyone's scared of it as if like, you know, it's super dangerous, which it's not. It's unpleasant, but it's no more dangerous than most of the other techniques actually if you do them. You know, like I hear more people that have like had broken ribs from somebody doing too hard door cut or things like that, rather than actually like I've never heard of anybody being seriously injured in my experience. I mean, I'm not talking about somebody said that they once knew somebody's auntie that happened to. I'm not talking about that. I mean, I've never seen in my experience somebody get seriously injured from a tsuki strike. But because there is obviously if you weren't wearing armor and somebody really lunged in and get massive ski right on your throat, yeah, obviously that's dangerous, as it would be for hitting anywhere on your body. Obviously it's more dangerous there because obviously they crush your windpipe, you're going to have trouble. But it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Essentially, to get back to the question, because of that, people are unwilling to practice it, all right? Now, in terms of how to, which is a problem, all right? So first off, the best way to receive ski is to practice ski in your dojo. You need your dojo to practice it. But to receive it, what some people do is some people step back really quickly and don't allow the ski to connect. It's fine to step back after receiving ski, but you have to receive the ski and then step backwards. That's the way to do it. You don't step back before the ski makes contact, if that makes sense. Likewise, you don't oppositely lean into the ski either. That isn't what you're supposed to do. Stand in kamae, keep your head straight. Yeah, don't tuck your chin down. Keep your head straight like this. If you tuck your chin down like this, you'll move the target to where it normally is, and then the other person won't practice how to actually be accurate with their ski strike. You leave your head here. You let the ski connect. That force will push your head this way, and then you can receive the force and take a step back then. Next one. Hi Andy, I'm starting my first Kendo training in about a couple of weeks and I'm thinking about saving up money to buy a Borgu when I'm eventually ready. Would you consider offering an ultimate complete beginner Borgu set? For example, the V1 set with a uniform, shinai, bag, tsuba, etc. Yeah, I have considered this. So it's like an ultimate startup set, right? Where you get the Borgu, you get a uniform, you get the shinai, you get everything you need in Kendo in one complete kit. Now, I do know that I have offered something like that before, I think in the past, and I do know that there are other companies offering that sort of thing out there, and here's why I don't currently offer it. It isn't to say that I won't do it in the future, perhaps I will. If you think that I should offer it, if there's people out there that think I should offer it, leave a comment down below. But generally, my opinion is that if you start out Kendo, you don't need the Borgu right away, all right? You don't need all of that equipment right up all at once. It's better off you get the shinai first generally, and then maybe a bokuto, and then you'll get a uniform later on, and it could be months before you need to wear the Borgu. Now, of course, I'm more than happy for you to buy the Borgu off KendoStar from day one. If you want to give us your money, that's fine. But what I'm talking about is, realistically, generally, most people don't need to just buy everything all at one go. And that's why I don't offer that kind of bundle deal. All right? But, you know, I mean, other companies offer it. I do know that. Most of the other companies don't do Kendo, so that's why that is. But that's just by the by. If you think it's something that would be popular, though, if you'd like to see it on the website, you know, if you do think that, then pop a comment down below encouraging us to do it, and maybe we'll look at it. Next one. In some competitions in Japan, referees and other seniors wear ribbons on the pockets of their suits. I'd love to know what they represent or why they wear them. Thanks. So this was actually accompanied by a picture from the All Japan Championships. It showed the shimpan and the people at the table. They're obviously wearing the shimpan fuku, the suit, and they're wearing a sort of rosette or a ribbon on their jacket. Yeah, the reason for that generally is you generally wear one of them when you're a shimpan. It usually says on it actually shimpan or something like that, or whatever role that you're supposed to shimpan in, or maybe like a shimpan shunin or shimpan cho and stuff like that. And the reason for that is because at a Kendo tournament in Japan, lots of people are wearing suits. It's normal for people to wear suits to a Kendo tournament, like the competitors as well, especially if they're police officers or high level. Even like at the All Japan Championships, people don't show up in tracksuits. Like the competitors show up wearing a suit. Or people that are also connected to the competitors, maybe they're teachers or trainers, people that are part of their group, or even at other tournaments like a kids tournament or a team tournament, you'll have the team manager or the coach and stuff like that. They'll generally always be wearing suits as well. So at a tournament like that, you have a lot of people wearing suits, right? So the idea of the ribbons is generally so that it's easy to spot who is a shimpan and who is not, or who is whatever role and who is just but is a different, is like not part of the tournament organization, if that makes sense. That's what they're for. Next question. Unfortunately, the only club near me where I can train does not allow non-students. That leaves me with very few options, meaning I haven't trained in ages. I want to get back to Kendo, so do I start my own club, even though I'm not that high of a level of Kendoka? I do have over 10 years of experience, though. I love your stuff, by the way. Thank you very much. Okay, well, it depends. It really depends. Because you say the only club near you, that's kind of subjective, right? As to what counts as being near and what isn't. I think what I'd be looking to do if I were you is probably get in touch with the nearest club that does have a teacher. Get in touch with them and try and get over there if it's within like a realistic distance to travel to. I'm not saying every week or something, just try and get over there once or so. And maybe try and get in touch with whoever's leading the club there and say that you want to get back into Kendo. There is nothing around where you are. You'd like to start up a group in your own area, but would they be able to sort of support you? And perhaps, you know, if you went over there on a monthly basis or every couple of months, so that they could sort of keep an eye on your progression as well, and making sure that you're doing the right thing, if that makes sense. I think that's the best way to go about that sort of situation. Because yeah, I understand what it's like living in a country where there's not Kendo clubs everywhere. You know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to start up your own group, regardless of what level you are. But you do need the support of somebody senior that can make sure you're staying on the right track, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what I do. Next one. Hi Andy, how would you break the center of someone with an extremely strong kamae? It's so strong that you'd not be able to slightly release pressure, as to do so will get your shinai smacked down, leaving you open and defenseless. Right, so it depends. Most people, it depends what you count as a strong kamae. If it's somebody that's got loads of pressure, and like you say, if you release a bit of pressure, they're going to smack your shinai out of the way. I don't really consider that as a super strong kamae. That's probably somebody that's putting too much power into their kamae and kind of holding the center. Usually things like harai waza, where you smack the shinai out the way, or osae waza, where you would press the shinai. Probably that's something I do. If they've got very strong kind of grip on the shinai like this, I'd push on top of the shinai like this, and then immediately release and maybe attack kote or men, because what will happen is as you push on there, they're going to want to keep that strong grip of the center. As you release quickly, obviously they're going to counteract that, and there's either going to be a chance for kote, or if they're too quick to defend the kote, you can then go for, they'll notice as you lift, they'll notice their kote is open, they'll first try to counteract by coming back, and then they'll start to defend the kote, and their men might be open as well. So I'd experiment with that sort of waza personally, or I'd hit them at the I'd try and make them make an opportunity in them and make them want to attack me. Go and watch my video about semi, and use the techniques in that, where you're trying to create a situation where they're going to attack you, and you make an attack at the beginning of their attack, like a debana waza or oji waza or nuki waza or something like that. So you don't need to get past their kamae, because you're actually breaking their kamae by making them attack you. That's another way you could deal with someone like that. How do you build tame while fighting? It's not the first thing you think of when a guy's lunging at you with a big stick, screaming manically at the top of his lungs. Okay, but I think tame itself is something that's a little bit over mystified. Tame means to have the power built up, particularly in your left leg, so that you're ready to strike instantly. That's what tame is, right? So you need to, when you make kamae, you need to have tame in your left leg so that you're able to instantly strike. Yeah. So you have to stay relaxed, but you have to practice having the correct kamae and make sure that every time you do kamae, you're able to attack immediately without moving your left foot. Yeah, because most people have to, from kamae, they have to adjust their left foot before they're able to make an attack. You need to practice without being able to do that. If you're able to do that, then you'll automatically be more relaxed in your kamae because you'll be more confident in it because you know you're able to attack instantly. That in turn will allow you to stay calm under that pressure. It'll also be much more intimidating for your opponent because there's such a difference between standing in front of somebody that's not ready to hit you and standing in front of somebody that is ready to hit you, right? That it is such a big difference and it will affect them differently. So that means that you'll also have more effective semi. Okay, next one. This question actually was on the Kendo Show Early Access group, and it was from a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to address it. The Kendo Show Early Access group, by the way, it's a great place to post your questions. There's loads of Kendo people in there from all over the world, of all different levels as well. So you don't just get me answering in here, but you get their opinions as well. So join the group. The link's down there in the description. It says, are Naginata Kote illegal to use in Shiai? And it means Kendo Shiai. So Naginata Kote are a bit different to Kendo Kote. They have I think the first finger is separate, and I'm not sure if the other fingers are separate as well. I think the first thing is separate, and these are separate, and your thumb's separate, of course. Because obviously in Naginata they have to manipulate the Naginata itself into different kamae, and they grip it in a very different way in which we do with the Shinai. First, in direct answer to the question, yes, it is legal to use Naginata Kote in Kendo Shiai. Therefore, Naginata, not for Kendo. And it's a bad idea to use them for Kendo practice as well, because they're not designed to be hit with a Shinai. You will injure yourself if you do that, and they're just not designed for that. Now, I did comment on there and a few comments came back. First thing I want to say is you've got absolutely no requirement at all in Kendo to have your index finger separately articulated. There's no requirement at all. The Kendo Kote are perfectly adequate, more than adequate, for performing the correct grip on the Shinai. If you can't do the correct grip on the Shinai, if you don't feel like the Kendo Kote are allowing you to grip the Shinai properly, then your grip is wrong, because you do not need articulated fingers for the Kendo Shinai grip. Secondly, the reason I say they don't get hit with the Shinai, I said that on the thread and somebody came up and said, well, what about issue GI when somebody does Kendo versus Naginata, right? Yeah, that sometimes happens, but it's a very rare occurrence. It's not the main sort of practice in Naginata. They don't do it all the time. And secondly, the thing about that is when somebody's doing Naginata and you're fighting against them, doing with a Shinai, doing Kendo, you don't attack Kote that much, right? Because it's not the same kind of target as it is against somebody with a Shinai, all right? It's just not as a valid target. I mean, it's a valid target, but it's not as it's not open as much. You're not going to get a decent strike on it. I've talked about my feelings on issue GI on here before anyway, but the Naginata Kote are designed for Naginata. They're not designed for issue GI either. They're designed for Naginata versus Naginata. That's also worth bearing in mind. But no, you can't use them for Kendo. So, yeah, that's that. It's not the first time I've been asked it, as you can probably tell. Okay, next one. I've been doing Kendo for about a year and a half. I fought in several Shiai and participated in a few Shinsa. I'm getting ready to take my examination for Shodan. What are the fine points that the panel be looking for? Actually, what do the panel look for generally in a Shodan candidate? So this is a great question. I get it a lot, of course. I answered it in the thread on the Kendo Show Early Access group, but I do want to address it in here because I do think it is something that lots of people want to know about. Now, when you're doing Shodan, especially if you've done a few Q gradings up to then, it starts to feel like you're climbing the ladder, right? And that you know that Shodan is like the first milestone, and it's kind of the first black belt, as it's often referred to. So it's easy for us to ascribe a little bit more expectation to it than it really deserves. And I don't mean that in a kind of disrespectful way to the grade Shodan, because it is an achievement to achieve Shodan. It's not easy to achieve Shodan, but the criteria for Shodan are not complicated, all right? They're very, very simple. All you've got to do, you've got to turn up on time, obviously, be dressed properly. So that means you need to have the correct equipment and the correct chakso. That means your equipment has to be clean and in good a good state of repair. It doesn't have to be brand new, but it has to be in a good state of repair. It is about appearance, so obviously the best looking kit you've got is the best to use, and it has to be worn properly and neatly. The boga has to be tied correctly. The himo have to be tied properly and sat in the right place. They can't be all over the place. Yeah, you can't be using broken himo that are tied up by yourself, for example. You have to be able to do the basic neho. Yeah, the basic day movements, right? And you have to be able to make strikes with kikentai no ichi, yeah, with fumikomi, and that would meet the criteria of yuko datotsu. Okay, and that's it. Yeah, there's nothing more to it than that. Just that. That's it. You don't have to show anything like seme or any special ninja waza or anything like that. All right, you just need to do strikes that hit, stamp, and shout at the same time with some element of zanshin, okay? And if you can do that, then you pass. But it's hard to do that, and lots of people can't, all right? So that's why Shodan is indeed, it is the first level. That's literally what it means, but it is an achievement to get Shodan, all right? It's not a grade that anyone can pass after a couple of weeks of Kendo. It's not like that. You need to be able to make correct strikes, yeah, and you need to be showing that you're doing Kendo properly, okay? And that's it. Okay, last one, and this is a little bit in relation. It says, in another video you talked about how to wear the uniform. I've heard that guys are to wear the hakama on their hips, whilst women are to wear it at the waist. Is this commonly known or accepted practice? And are there differences in uniform boga wearing between men and women that you're aware of? So yeah, this is a great question, actually. Yes, the hakama particularly, the men would generally wear the hakama, as you say, on the hips, and women will wear it slightly higher, yeah, more sort of on the waistline. Yeah, so women generally need one size longer than men do for the same height. All right, that's how it's done in Japan. That's how women wear hakama compared to how men wear hakama traditionally in Japanese clothing. All right, so other than that, there's not much else, right? But of course, because the hakama is a bit higher, it does mean that you would wear the tare a bit higher, and in turn the do probably a little bit higher. All right, now that's why generally at KendoStar, for example, we use do for women that are slightly shorter, all right? Only a little tiny bit. It don't look massively weird, because if you go too short, it looks odd. But just a little bit shorter so that they can be worn that little bit higher without interacting too much with the men, all right? But other than that, it's generally the same. But yes, you should wear the hakama a little bit higher, okay? So that's it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. Join the Kendo Show Early Access group down in the link below. Shop at KendoStar. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.